In these past couple of episodes, it's obvious I've been talking a lot about Western philosophy, but today I wanted to incorporate some aspects of Eastern philosophy into this episode. And what better way to do that than to bring in a guest speaker? I'm joined by my grandfather, Dr. Bansh Jha, who's a professor, author, and spiritual leader. We'll be talking about Eastern versus Western philosophy with a special focus on Hindu spirituality and beliefs. I'll be sharing some thoughts from Western lens and my grandfather will guide us through the wisdom of Eastern tradition. The goal isn't to prove one better than the other, but to see how these different ways of thinking can help us live more meaningful lives. So I want you guys to pick and choose whatever resonates the most with you and create a life you consider worth living. Now, a brief intro to Western philosophy is a tradition of thought developed mainly in Europe and North America. It began with the ancient Greeks around the 6th century BCE. And unlike Eastern traditions, which often tie philosophy into spirituality and practice, Western philosophy has mostly emphasized reason, logic, and individual inquiry. When I think about Western philosophy, I'm reminded the most about the Renaissance, which is when thought changed from religion to science and reason, placing the human and the individual at the center of everything. So, welcome to Life Fulfilled, and I hope you enjoy this episode. So, I'm going to briefly introduce Hindu philosophy because when my grandfather did this part, it unfortunately did not save. So, the Atma is the inner self, and the Brahma is the ultimate reality. So, this process comes with a lot of questioning. Who am I? You can realize that you are not your eyes, you are not even your mind. Because if one day you woke up and you perceived your body underneath you and you're like, wow, that's my body right there, then couldn't you say that you aren't your body? You're something more subtle. This is what my grandfather called the subtle thing experiencing all of this. In the West, we might say consciousness. We are not our thoughts, but we are the consciousness in which we perceive our thoughts by.
So, Brahma means the universal truth. So, that soul, which is so subtle that you cannot see it through your eyes, that itself is a part of that bigger soul, very big soul, universal soul, that is endless.
And you need to understand yourself to understand the ultimate truth and the ultimate reality. So, circling back to Western philosophy, it makes the individual mind the starting point of it's like the Western world builds everything science, morality, and even politics from the idea of a separate and independent self. That's so different from the Hindu idea that your deepest self isn't separate at all but connected to everything. Hinduism talks about the four aims of life dharma, artha,
Karma and moksha. These are the four stages, different phases or stages of life. So let us begin with this dharma. So in the Varnashram system, life has been divided into these four stages, right? So in the first stage where we have this, say, charja period, that is first, suppose the life is of 100 years. So divide it into four. And the first 25 years of the life, that is dharma. Dharma means to learn what the reality is. And this is the period of Brahma in the eastern part of the globe. The student used to go to the teacher, and there they used to get this knowledge of what I am, or who we are, and then learn what the reality is, what is the reality, what is the truth. So the total knowledge, to gain this knowledge, this is basically this understanding the reality, understanding the truth, understanding the existence of God. That happens during the Brahma period. That is the first part, that is called this dharma, understanding the reality. So that is the second phase you enter. So there you do service, you get gainful employment opportunities, or not at the cost of the others, but then in whatever natural way, just to survive, whatever that you need, just to fulfill your needs, you need to do that. Coming again to your point of dharma, artha. So about artha, I said to you, the views of the Eastern world is that the resources that you have, utilize it properly. Don't misuse it that way. This is the second part, dharma. Then kama also means understand what is the ultimate goal of the life. So what you have come to this world, understand that and do it actually. In the third, that perhaps begins from say 50 to 75. And ultimately, you say after 75, that is in the fourth stage of your life, everything is the body or the energy of the body that gives the stage. So dharma means trying to understand the truth. You should go for it. Second phase is wealth properly. Third is this kama, that is what is the proper karma that you should do, what is the proper work that you need to do in this world. Go on doing this. And the last is liberation from all these things. And if you will really get moksha, liberation from this life.
Thank you for that. It's very insightful. I agree that we should really try to make use of what we have and appreciate everything. Because if we get too much exposure to things, we tend to take it for granted. That's something people all over the world have. And in both, there's an emphasis on truly appreciating the world around us because it won't last forever. Now, let's talk about Western philosophy. Traditions often try to solve suffering through reason. The Stoics said pain isn't about what happens to us, but how we interpret it. Because we can't change what happens, but we can change how we react to it. Christianity framed suffering as redemptive. And in modern psychology, we try to manage suffering with therapy, medication, or reframing our thoughts. Cognitive behavioral therapy. It's very much about fixing or coping. Hinduism, though, seems to say suffering is part of a much bigger cycle. It has a cosmic meaning tied to growth and liberation, as previously mentioned in four different phases of life. Now, let's talk some more about suffering. In Hindu philosophy, suffering is seen as tied to karma and the cycle of rebirth. But when it comes to karma and stuff like that, how can we perceive suffering as part of a bigger cycle? How is suffering framed in Eastern philosophy?
You know, it is not for just to suffer that we come to this world. We, as we said, that a soul is part of that ultimate soul, right? So that ultimate soul, when it ultimate soul or the soul that we have in this body, they are the same. This is what is, since we are from that, we are linked to that God, and its nature is pleasure, its nature is happiness. So suffering doesn't have any scope in this life. But then we see that there is a suffering in this life. Then there is also opposite to it, that is time, moments of pleasure in this life. So this cycle goes on one after the other. Now it is related to karma and rebirth, because we believe, that is the Hindus believe, that our existence, the present existence, today's existence, didn't begin in this life itself. We had different births in the past, in different instincts, and this human instinct is the supreme one in which we exist. This is the belief. So we have birth or rebirth so many times actually in the past, and we are evolving and evolving, and through the process of evolving we have come to this human form here. Now about, so whatever that we do in the past life or even before that, so it is said that karma, you have to face, or you have to undergo, or you have to take the responsibility of what you perform, right? So if you do good deeds, then it has good returns. If you do bad deeds, it does have bad returns, right? It is as per the laws of returns. Whatever that you give, the return comes in that way. So if there is something crime is committed in our lives in the past, or something sinful activities has been committed in the past, that is in the past life. So, and if we did not fulfill it, if we didn't absorb it in the past life, then we have to do it in this life.
Let's talk a little bit about breaking that cycle.
So, dear, as we said in the beginning, we can break it. But then for that, we have to understand who is the doer. Because the entire things that is in the body, that depends on the soul, and that is the part of the universe or the truth, supreme truth. So naturally, I am nothing actually. I am not this body, I am not this mind, I am nothing. So when this sense of nothingness comes to you, or even if it is just the soul, which is the part or a fraction of, say, light of that universe that manifests in this body. So it is this. So when you have this, I have not done that actually. So impact of good karma or bad karma then will start, will cease to change you at that time. And when you reach that stage in reality, then you will go beyond this cycle of birth and.
Okay, thank you. So, in Western philosophy, I see a lot of emphasis on mindset. That by changing our mindset, we can change the way we perceive the world. That's why Stoicism is so popular, because you can change the way you live, you can become more satisfied with what you have just by becoming less reactive. In Hinduism, they're speaking about a pattern, an ultimate cycle that you are a part of where karma exists, and what you put out is what you get back. In Western philosophy, there's not a lot of emphasis on that, although it's mentioned in a lot of different types of media. We can talk about certain philosophers like Kant, Nietzsche, or John Stuart Mill. Their focus is on abstract arguments. The average person doesn't actually listen to Immanuel Kant and always be honest or always act in the exact perfect way that everyone should be acting. Science, too, separates theory from application. Hinduism is so fascinating because it blurs that line. Philosophy is something you actually do, whether through prayer, meditation, or service. And when it comes to ultimately finding liberation from suffering, it's important to note that Friedrich Nietzsche talks about how suffering is an inherent part of life. Everyone suffers. In one of my favorite quotes, he says, "To live is to suffer, or to survive is to find meaning in the suffering." Thus, he explains how everyone suffers, it's a universal feeling, but what really matters is finding meaning within it so you can persist. It's a little different from Hinduism and spirituality in that sense, but those are just two different sides of the same coin. So now let's move on to a different topic. There are various paths to spiritual growth in Hinduism. I heard about knowledge, devotion, selfless action, and meditation. So, what exactly does this mean, and how do these paths work together? There are different paths.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But let me tell you about the mind. You talked about the mind in your comments. We need to change the mind, right?
Yes.
And then you repeatedly use the word this suffering. So, first of all, I don't agree that we have come to this world just to suffer. We have come to this world since we are the child of the God, where the our soul is connected to that ultimate reality, and its nature is not suffering, not pain, no suffering. It is Paramananda, that is Ananda, that is our nature. Because of the ignorance, we feel that we are suffering. Now, about this mind, changing the mind, you cannot change the mind actually. That is beyond your control. Mind is nothing but a kind of energy, God gifted energy. The more you will find that it becomes difficult to control, will of mind will control will start controlling you. All right, the moment you want anything not to crop up in your mind, you will find that it is that very thing that keeps on changing, and it is God gifted, so you cannot change that. What is the truth? What you need to do is just understand the mind. Now, of course, it is an energy, and I am not the mind, or what mind is not me. It is different. That way, if you start ignoring the very existence of this mind, then weakening and it may go one day. Right? So when the mind goes, then the sufferings, the sense of suffering, or even the sense of pleasure or happiness will find in supremely blissful state. That is the Eastern philosophy. How to attain that stage of reality or the supreme truth, or how to realize the God. There are three ways, basically three ways. You have mentioned this meditation. Meditation is not very different from the first three. That is, the one is called this knowledge, you said, right? Knowledge. Then the second thing that you miss, devotion. And then the third is this karma, right? Three things. Now this meditation to me is a part, it is not very separate actually. Meditation is a part of this jnana. Jnana means this knowledge. Because when you have knowledge that there is a reality, then meditating on it, right? So it is a part of this knowledge itself. Now, so this reality could be understood through this knowledge. And as I said it in the very beginning, and I'm repeating it again, that when we have this knowledge of who I am, where did I come from, and where we are heading for. So, what is this mind? What is this body? So, when we have knowledge of these things, that will lead us to that supreme reality. You say in philosophy, in Sanskrit, that is called the sun, Darasan. Philosophy is called. So darshan, we said that even if you go to this temple, we said we are going to the temple to have darshan of Lord or Krishna. So darshan means just to visualize, just to see over there, right? So knowledge is something that makes you to understand the truth. That is one thing. So there is emphasis on that knowledge in the beginning, or when we talk about dharma, that is the foundation. So during that stage, we try to have that knowledge of God, actually, knowledge of God. Now, the second is this the realized God, the means devotion towards God will take us to that stage. Because in the bhakti, you forget your own existence and you totally concentrate on the God or the other power. So you surrender. So devotion means this. And devotion means this surrendering yourself to the existence of something bigger truth, something bigger existence, or what you can say to God, right? So that will also lead you to liberation. Second thing. So first is knowledge. The second is this devotion, and then the third is karma. So karma marg will also lead to the realization of the God. So you do good jobs, good deeds. You help others. So you make the others, keep the others in pleasuresome mood. So that will reward you. Your good deeds will reward you. Now, before I end, I don't know to what extent I have made some of these points clear because this is not my subject. But then, whatever little that I understand that I have seen this world, I try to explain you on that basis. It is not that I am a scholar on this field, but
Thank you so much for that.
but thank you 100 times more because you are far better than me. That the examinee is better than the examiner, and this is my observation of you.
I do want to once again talk about Western philosophy. So, like he was mentioning devotion or
Right.
all the different examples he was talking about, submitting to God, you could also say you're submitting to the universe. You follow the universe and universal laws, what you put out comes back. And you can follow the flow, trust in the universe that good things are coming. Now, in the West, success usually means independence, achievement, and control over your future. But there's also a lot of people speaking about how when you eventually die, you are going to leave it all behind. So that's why these Eastern practices are so important. It teaches you how to live a mindful life, how to feel fulfilled in your reality, and how to gain liberation and some knowledge in what exactly you are doing. So, thank you so much for your wisdom. What I love about this conversation is how Hindu philosophy expands the way we already think about life. As someone who has lived in the West her entire life, I've found that I can resonate with Hindu practices too, and there are a lot of parallels and a couple of differences between Eastern and Western philosophy. One of the biggest ones I saw was when I talked about suffering. You told me people don't actually suffer, that's just one way of perceiving things. But once again, there are a lot of overlap. For me, looking at the Western perspective alongside Hindu spirituality shows that there is a balance to be found, the pursuit of knowledge and reason, but also devotion, harmony, and liberation. I'd love for all of you listening to take one idea from this episode and reflect on how it could bring meaning to your own life. This has been Life Fulfilled. I'm Alina, here with Dr. Bansh Jha, and I'll see you in the next episode. Until next time, keep living a life fulfilled.
Thank you.
Thank you.